Greetings. Welcome to another broadcast of I Have a Testimony. I'm your host, Brother Willie Muhammad.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
We thank each and every one of you all for tuning in to another broadcast of I Have a Testimony live here on the Closing the Gap Broadcast Network. Today, brothers and sisters, we have another special guest, one of our brothers, my brother. He's from the eastern region of the Nation of Islam. He's the student minister of Muhammad Mosque number 7 in New York, that historical mosque. Our brother, Brother Arthur Muhammad. Check out this clip.
To hinder and to humble words can be the source of great happiness. And words can be the cause of tremendous havoc in our lives. Words can build and destroy. So to the person that made up that saying, sticks and stones can break our bones, but words can never hurt us. They lied to us. Whoever it was obviously didn't grow up in our hood. Because where we come from, we can be very mean and very irresponsible, very insensitive, very inappropriate, vicious, wicked, and cruel to each other. Not with the pistol, not with the hammer, not with the blicky, not with the trigger, not with the strap, but with our mouths.
Yes, that's right. Ooh, let me bring our brother on the screen. Assalamu alaikum, my brother.
Wa alaikum salam, dear brother Willie. How are you doing, brother student minister?
I'm striving by Allah's grace, man. And I'm excited to have you as a guest on this show, my brother. And man, just thank you, my brother, and for the work that you are striving to do in New York, and just for being a brother and all that you have shared, man.
All praises due to Allah, brother. When I tell you, I wake up grateful because I know that, there, but for the grace of God, go I. And so every day that we are allowed to wake up, open our eyes, and be intentional in this life, it's a blessing. The Quran says Allah takes men's souls at the time of their passing, and those who the decree of death is not declared, that he gives them their soul back. And so just to have another day for a soul fulfilling opportunity, I'm just excited, brother. All praise is due to Allah.
Well, I'd like to get right into it, man. And being that you are there, the student minister of that historic mosque in the Nation of Islam, Mosque number 7, I want to begin this interview by asking you if you can share any of your fondest memories with our brother Abdul Hafiz Muhammad, the former Eastern regional minister, and who the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says is our martyr.
Well, first of all, brother, to have a sister, the man that would be a martyr is, I'm very honored to do so. I want you to know about Minister Hafiz. Probably his most redeeming characteristic was his ability to bounce back. Our brother, when I came in 1988, was the student minister. He was replaced by Brother Khalid. Then Brother Khalid was replaced by Brother Conrad. And then Brother Conrad was replaced by Brother Benjamin. All the while, Brother Kevin, at the time, Hafiz, as we know him today, he remained in the ranks. He didn't fall out. He accepted smaller assignments. But when it was time for Brother Benjamin to be replaced, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan put our brother in the position that he desired and had at one time. And our brother was never bitter at the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And for that, That is a great testament to all of us who are in organizations and aspire to different positions. It teaches us patience. It teaches us character. That's number one. The other thing that I'll say about the late, great student minister Abdul Hafiz Muhammad is that, bar none, he was the hardest working soldier in New York City. Our brother was in the top three in charity, the top three in attendance, the top three in inviting guests. And so when he drove us to work hard, he was the product of the product. So those are my two memories or testimonies, if you will, of the late, great student minister Abdul Hafiz Muhammad, a man on whose shoulders I stand on.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, my brother, for those words that you shared. And I'd like to ask this next question to you as well. This is a two-part question. One, how does it feel to know that you are serving as the student minister of Muhammad Mosque number 7, which is where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan himself once labored? And two, has the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan given you any guidance regarding such?
Wow. How does it feel? It's the greatest accomplishment, if you will, in my life. It's the highest honor that I could ever have, not only to be a member of the believing community that the Messiah leads, but to be a student representative or a student minister in that cause certainly is the highest. You know, I'm Team New York. If you know Brother Arthur, I'm Team New York. And I would be as happy with a broom in my hand. I would be as happy with some binoculars on my eyes doing security. And so, since ministry is the highest calling, it is the highest honor. The minister has encouraged me to be strong against the disbeliever, to be strong against the hypocrite, and to be loving towards the believer.
And and with that, and my next question I want to ask you is that, a few months ago, uh, the believers and the public were able to see online. I remember when I first saw it, and Brother Don sent me some messages as well. We were able to see the beautiful job that you all have done with renovating the mosque there, right? So, can you talk some about how the believers there came together collectively to beautify the building and the importance of having a decent place to invite our people to hear this teaching?
Yes, sir. Thank you for that question. The truth is that when we returned back November of 2021 from being in shelter in place, and we came back to the mosque in preparation for its reopening, we made a painful assessment about the condition and the look of the mosque. And us being a regional headquarters, we decided to give it a sorely needed facelift. And we completely renovated the mosque, as you can see on your screen, to reflect the power and purity of the message given to us by Allah in the person of Master Fard Muhammad to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, as so deftly and skillfully and lovingly demonstrated by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We felt that a upgrade would be more attractive to our people and put them in the mind frame to receive the message that we have to offer. So it's very beautiful that all of the mosques, to the ability that they own the building or to the ability that they can spruce it up, reflects that same purity. Obviously, Mosque Mariam is the gold standard by which all mosques are judged by, but we wanted to come close in our sanctuary area. We're still actually doing more work to the mosque. We are probably 95% done with a multi-purpose room in the basement that will serve as a musala where you can come in and make salat when you're coming in for a meet. You want to make up some prayers. It will also double as a meeting space. So we're doing that. We're going to do some renovation on the bathrooms. I think that our places of worship should represent the highest level of civilization.
Beautiful, man. And you all did a stunning and a marvelous job, man. And when the believers, when we saw it around the Nation of Islam, is inspirational. And just what you said, we definitely need to have our places where it's fitting for and it reflects the message that we are bringing. You know, Brother Arthur, one of the many benefits of me doing this show is that I get the opportunity personally to hear how my brothers and sisters came into the ranks and became first familiar with the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And it's a double blessing because I get the opportunity to provide a larger audience to actually hear those stories as well. So if you can, my brother, can you share with us how you first came into contact with the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and then made your decision to become a full registered member?
Yes, sir. Thank you for that question. I grew up in the church. I was christened. I was baptized. I was on the usher board. But hip hop came into my life. And instead of going to church at 10 o'clock in the morning, I would sleep at 10 o'clock because the previous night I went to a hip hop jam somewhere in New York. And so I was a member of the Zulu Nation, which is the first hip hop organization that spans around the globe. I was taught by the great Africa Bambaataa, who's one of the pillars of hip hop. And along the journey, he gave me the lessons. Along the journey, he gave me my first tape of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan speaking in Rutgers University. Along the journey, he gave me my message to the Black man. So as a teenager, I was seeded with who this man was. However, all I had him was in the form of a cassette or a VHS tape, for those that know VHS, before the digital era. And so in 1988, the mosque had been purchased, but it was not rededicated. And so I had an opportunity to go to Chicago where they had Savior's Day 1988 under the tent. As a member of the Zulu Nation, it was my first face-to-face experience with the Nation of Islam. I never saw so much Black excellence, Black discipline, Black love, Black achievement, Black order, Black righteousness in all of my goings to and fro with Black people. And I decided right then and there on that day that I would join the Nation of Islam because the love of the minister had already been secured by the different tapes and messages that I had on him. So you know how they say, seeing is believing? That's when I made my choice that day.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful for sharing that testimony. And since we're talking also about hip hop, and you mentioned Zulu Nation, man, I came across this video before, and I was looking at, oh, that's J. Rue the Damager, or that's Lauryn Hill. But lo and behold, there was somebody else that was on that video, right? And if I
Yes.
guess you can see right over to the right hand, the right shoulder of our sister Lauryn Hill, you see our brother Arthur. And I would like to just ask you this question, what can you tell us just about this just the setting behind this actual this image, this video, what was taking place, and just what was going on?
Well, the whole meeting was organized by Ralph McDaniels. Ralph McDaniels is a great videographer. He had a video show called Video Music Box. And Video Music Box is where all of the underground hip hop videos were played. We used to run home. They started at 4:30. Video Music Box from 4:30 to 5:30, and we used to only get it on the UFH channel. So you had to have your little antenna. And so Ralph was part of hip hop from day one. In fact, on Showtime, there's a documentary on his anniversary of being involved in hip hop. So he's a conscious brother who loves the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And in the wake of all of the police shootings, he called the conscious artists of New York together. At that time, I had records out. I was on the radio, worked for Hot 97. At the time, I had a video out, so I was a part of that rap community. If you also notice, Method Man was in there, Irv Gotti from the Murder Inc. And so we had a discussion around police violence and Black unity, and that thing has hundreds of thousands of shares. And so I'm often reminded of my connection to hip hop in the New York scene.
Beautiful. And since we you talked about that, in regards to that, we talking about hip hop. Recently, Meek Mill was at an NAACP panel, it appears, and one of the things that he spoke about how he said that many of the rappers are paid more to rap about guns and violence. And you talked about your history in the hip hop industry, albums out, videos, and you sent me videos showing how you knew a lot of these people. From your experience in the world of hip hop, have you witnessed anything that bears witness to what Brother Meek Mill said?
Well, one thing for sure, I know that those radio executives, along with the record executives, they know and believe the phrase that the revolution will not be televised. They are not going to bankroll our liberation through the voice and the leadership of conscious Black artists. They learned their lesson when Public Enemy said Farrakhan's a prophet that I think you ought to listen to. They learned their lesson when Prowse from the Fugees said, like Farrakhan reads his daily Quran. They learned their lesson when Biggie Smalls says, I'm deep like the mind of Farrakhan, a rap phenomenon. And so once the fix was in, once the gangster rap was proliferated and supported by radio and record industries, and the level of consciousness began to wane after the Million Man March, and they made radio regional. It used to be local, it became regional, now it's national. So the same debased lyrics that's played in Miami is played in Cleveland, is played in New Orleans, it's played in New York all at once, even though each one of those areas have their own sound. So it's saying to people who have a unique regional sound, if you're not getting down with the energy and the lyrics that we're pushing today, we will not push your lyrics. So they have come together to ensure that no one conscious and impactful will rise on the scene and attract people to consciousness. There's a deliberate attempt to keep us dumb, deaf, and blind. And music is the universal language, the universal energy of the world. So you can have a civilized beat with uncivilized lyrics. You can have a catchy beat with trapping lyrics. So I believe that what Brother Meek Mill said is very, very true. The conscious artists are struggling, and this is why we who are conscious should support conscious artists in their platforms to inspire them to continue to create new information and inspiration.
Thank you, my brother, for that prolific response. I've had the opportunity to interview Fat Joe on this show, and in my talk to him, he speaks very high of you, right? And he actually said in the interview that we did that you played a role with helping him to make it to the peace conference, the East Coast versus West Coast peace conference that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan helped to facilitate. And in my talking to you, you actually told me that you were there. So can you take a moment to just talk about what you witnessed and what you observed at that moment and the significance of it?
Well, going back to Fat Joe, I knew Fat Joe before he was a rapper. And I met him as I worked at a store in Harlem. I did security for one of our brothers, Malachi Bell of Bell's Fashion. And so yo hablo español también. Mi nombre es Arturo. I'm bilingual. And so I was able to speak with him in Spanish. And he was so enamored as a Puerto Rican brother who lives in At the time, he lived in the Bronx, and many times the Latinos would submit to Black culture. He saw this Black man submitting to Latino culture, talking to him in his language, and so the connection was instant. And so, you know, whenever we did conscious things in the community, we would always invite Joe. But when I had the opportunity to bring some artists to Chicago at the invite of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to discuss the East Coast, West Coast friction, Fat Joe, who at that time was afraid to fly. Joe never flew anywhere. He got together with a bunch of Puerto Ricans. I think they drove in an MPV, and they drove all the way to Chicago from New York. At the time, Fat Joe was having beef with Ice Cube because Ice Cube had made a song in I think called "Hip Hop Started in the West." That was Ice Cube's song, and Fat Joe and a lot of New Yorkers took exception to that, knowing that hip hop started in the East. And I was able to watch them both settle that particular beef that they had right at the table. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the great Snoop Dogg was there, Ice-T was there, you had Crucial Conflict there, and many other rappers. It was a who's who, and the respect that they have for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Common was there. In fact, there were two that I was at, and the two times are kind of blurred to me because they were all within a year and a half span. And Dougie Fresh was there representing New York, but the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has always had a great concern for the messengers of God, the hip hop artists, particularly the rappers.
Praise be to Allah. Before we go into this, for those who are watching, this next question that our brother is going to share some stuff on is going to blow your mind as the responses that he's done thus far. But I just want to take a moment to show our guests that, and I talk to our viewers, and I share this with brother. You know, when I talk about hip hop, I'm talking about it from a perspective of a onlooker as a fan. But our brother was directly engaged in the hip hop community, as you heard in his responses. But check this video out.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, y'all about to witness my main man, brother Arthur, from the FOI, represent. Hit it. Hit it, Sam. Black people unite and let's all get. Everybody put up the black power fist right now. Yeah. If you proud to be black and now proud, put your hands up in the air. I want everybody to pump your fist like this. Everybody pump your fist. Now when I ask you what time is it, you say nation time, all right? Here we go. What time is it? And let's all get down. What time is it? What time is it? What time is it? Sam. Now I want to know something right now. Is Brooklyn in the house? Let me hear you say Brooklyn. Everybody. Let me hear you say Brooklyn rocks the best. Come on. Yo. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen.
And you control that crowd, brother. You control that stage, which shows that you know what you're doing. And we were talking, and you shared this with me. You talked about how you were part of the security with Tupac shortly after he was shot at, I think it was the Quad Studios, I think, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes,
the studio he was shot.
Yes,
and you talked about that, and then we're going to show the pictures to show. But you also mentioned something very significant that took place, that you said that from your perspective, that was even more evidence to you that Biggie had nothing to do with Tupac being shot. So if you can, my brother, can you talk about being there when they're escorting him in the wheelchair, and the other part that you shared with me about Biggie Smalls?
I'll just give you a little bit of backdrop. About a day after Tupac was shot, I think his attorney was Michael Warren, and through Michael Warren, I think through the request of Sister Afeni Shakur, they requested the security of the Nation of Islam, because at that time they didn't know who to trust. And of course, you could trust the Muslim brothers to be sincere. So I was actually posted up. There was about 6 of us, but I was posted up directly at Tupac's door while he was resting. He had just came out of surgery. And my job was to allow no one to come in except for the doctors and nurses, which I had to escort and witness exactly what they did, let them out. And so by the second day of his healing, we rushed him out of the hospital at 2 in the morning, went through the freight elevator because there were dozens of reporters from around the world, because the news of Tupac being shot was, it was worldwide news. And we brought him to an apartment in East Harlem. He was married to a sister by the name of Keisha. And it was about 8 of us who did security. I think it wasn't one of the high rise. It was like a 2 or 3 story building. And so, it's 2:33 in the morning, and he had that court date at 9. And so as we escorted him in the home, we all flanked the inside of the apartment building, including the front door, because again, not knowing who is coming after him to perhaps finish the job. And so about 4 in the morning, 4:15, Biggie Smalls comes to the door. And he said, I knew him obviously from being in the hip hop scene at that time and done shows with him. And he says, brother, I'd like to see Tupac. And I said, well, let me ask Afeni if it's possible. And so we knocked on their door, and Afeni said, sure, he can come in. And so it was my observation by his body language that he definitely was saddened that our brother was shot. And it was almost as to attempt to assure him that he had nothing to do with it. But one of the things that I know, because the visit with him was very short, Tupac was so doped up from the pain-killing medicines, it was not an opportunity for an even exchange. And then we know that soon as Tupac healed up, the press and Vibe magazine and radio stations took hold to the whole East Coast, West Coast beef, which gave birth to a lot of people getting stuck up, shot, and ultimately Tupac and Biggie being murdered.
Wow. You heard it here, folks. And as you were talking, I don't know if you had the opportunity to watch that recent documentary, Dear Mama. I think his father mentions that too, about Biggie coming shortly after Tupac was shot. And I'm just, it's so unfortunate how, the enemy can manipulate and take advantage of our tension that we have and misunderstandings. But thank you for sharing that. And as we transition from that, I want to talk about this and get your input of your insight on this. We recently witnessed the burial of one of our great pioneers, one of our theologians, who the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan refers to as an angel, Brother Jabril Muhammad. Can you take a moment and talk about what you see as his value to our nation, and how his work has helped you, and even how his work has helped the believers?
Excellent. First of all, the work on is it possible that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is physically alive is a must-read book. As the minister said, if you cannot prove me or relate to me or know me within the reference of the scriptures, then you really don't know me. And Minister Jabril, the student minister, did a wonderful job at that, allowing me to have confidence and understanding of how Allah's mystery was revealed. That's number one. But as an individual, when we look at what an angel is, and in its demystified way, a human being, but a very, very specially selected human being. Think about this. The angel Jibril, who gave Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the revelation of the Quran from Allah, he had the revelation before Prophet Muhammad had the revelation. He was a human being. If he did not have the love for Allah, the love and the patience for the Prophet, He himself could have tried to give it to the people, but he respected his position as God's emissary. And he respected Allah's choice of Muhammad, peace be upon him, as the messenger and purveyor and the exemplar of that word. And through a 23-year period, he did not deviate, and he gave Prophet Muhammad 114 surahs. Well, the same was it with brother Minister Jabril. He had already had the knowledge that was tailor-made for God's servant, the greatest witness of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He had it and was convinced before the minister was convinced that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was alive, and that he, in fact, was chosen by Allah to run this leg of the messianic race. And so our brother Jabril did not deviate one iota. He didn't step in front of the minister. He inspired the minister. And as the minister said at the janazah, he would give him certain things to read so that he could understand where he is in the scriptures. He indefinitely or most certainly was the angel of the angel, or the angel of the messenger. All praise is due to Allah.
Yes, beautiful, man. And may Allah be pleased with him. And you mentioned the minister, and it made me think about, we were blessed to be in his presence, and you were there as well a couple of weeks ago. And he talked about how he kept calling you DJ I Slam. I don't know if that's your the name that you go by as a DJ when you're doing that. And he talked about how great of a job you did when you were DJing there at our celebration of our Day of Independence. So if you can, my brother, just talk about how was that experience when you got the call and was asked to do that, and just to be able to do such.
Let me just give you some backdrop. I was a rapper, and you saw a clip.
Mm-hmm.
However, when hip hop first came out in 1975, it came to where I lived in 76, 77. So by 77, I embraced hip hop, but hip hop was just not rap. Hip hop was just not DJing. Hip hop was graffiti. Hip hop was breakdance. And those were the elements that qualified you to be a B-boy. So you had to know your element. So I knew how to DJ from the 70s. Though I was a rapper, every rapper knew how to DJ. Every DJ knew how to rap and tag their name in graffiti and dance. But my specialty was rap. What I did is I always collected music digitally. When they start going from relaxing the vinyl to CDs and LimeWire and Napster, I always collected music. I started DJing because I noticed that the programs that we would have at the mosque, the spoken word would be good, the food would be good, the fellowship would be good, but the music was an afterthought. Either they would hire a DJ that did not play age appropriate or appropriate lyric music, or there would be the sound system wouldn't be good. It was always a problem. So I decided I'm going to provide the music because I had a wide range of music collected with all my years of hip hop. And when I did that, the mosque was, everybody dancing, everybody having a good time. And so I decided to purchase my own equipment, and I was just going to be the mosque DJ. But when other people from around the community began to hear me, I started getting hired. I was blessed by the grace of Allah to graduate 4 daughters out of college along with my wife through DJing. And so some of you may know I do all of the old school jams for Savior's Day. Some of the believers fly me in to their cities to do their weddings. And so I got a call in late June being informed that I was invited to have the musical backdrop for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and his family as they were celebrating the coming of Master Fard Muhammad, and it was an absolute joy to see his family loving one another, grooving to the music in that festive occasion. It was like a family reunion, one of the most memorable days of my life. I can't hear you.
Say beautiful, man. And you know, since we're talking about that beautiful man, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the objective of this show, like the impetus of how this show started, because we would normally, before we would do it online, when we have guests here in the city after the Sunday meeting, we will have them give their testimony and believers would ask questions. During COVID, we started doing this online. But the objective of the show is to give people the opportunity who've had the opportunity to be with the minister in settings where he's not in the public's eye, to really talk about to the audience and share what they've seen, what they've personally experienced, to show people that this man is not this monster, this quote unquote hater that they attempt to make him out of. And you've been blessed to be amongst those who had the opportunity to sit with the minister, dine with the minister, you know, in the palace or even in a hotel room in those private settings. Can you talk about things that you have experienced that was just mind blowing, that really shows his character and his heart?
Well, you know, LeBron James, freak of nature, physically. Simone Biles, off the charts, physically. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, off the charts, spiritually. What blew my mind, you know, while we're on the hip hop theme, when our dear brother DMX had slipped into a coma, I received a phone call just asking if I had a contact for DMX or his family or his manager, because the minister desired to pray for him. And I was like, wow, man, the minister, you know, he stay up on current events, but moreover, he desired to pray for them. So Tupac was, DMX was in a coma, but I was able to get his manager and his family on the line. And when the minister prayed for them, he didn't do some warmed over ecumenical prayer. The minister prayed for about 25 minutes. It was the most strident, fervent prayer that used every fiber of his spiritual muscle. The minister is a believer and a knower that Master Fard Muhammad is real. He gave them the healing prayer. He lifted them up. He made them feel so special, to the point that when our brother DMX returned to Allah, they called and asked me to ask the minister, would he speak at their funeral? There was no relationship before that. It started with the minister just being being concerned about a fellow brother who had regard, but knew that he needed some prayers. And when I saw that, I was like, man, I have to get better. I got to love my people like the minister loves people that he doesn't even know. It's a difference between praying for someone in your mosque, someone in the mosque family, but to pray hard and beg to God for mercy for someone that you don't know, that's love on a different level.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. And thank you for sharing that contextual history so we can know how that came about. And may Allah be pleased with our brother DMX, Dark Man X. And we're still on the subject of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And this is a kind of a staple question that I ask. And it's inspired by the scripture in the Bible that says Satan was defeated by the blood of the Lamb and the power of their testimony, right? So and the title of this show is I Have a Testimony. And I always ask people this question, and I want to ask you, if you could stand before the world and you were asked to testify of a quality or qualities of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, what qualities would you choose to testify about that he possesses?
Man, belief. You know, when we go back to Angel Jabril, convincing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that he is the man for the awesome task of resurrecting the nation. Once he believed that, he started with nothing. There were no farms, no schools, no businesses, no mosques, no study groups. The only thing he had was his faith, the blueprint of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the word of God. And he went to work with the word of God, his faith in the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and Master Fard Muhammad, and the blueprint. And we can see the result of his faith, of his belief, of his work ethic. Many decades later, the Nation of Islam, which is still a growing nation, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, what Allah has allowed him to do, has put a period, has actually nullified impossibility. So if you are in a smaller city with a small study group, or a small mosque that's stagnant, or a large mosque that's stagnant, this man started from nothing. You have something. Let's take a page from his work ethic. Let's take a page from his faith and belief. And let's take a page from his blueprint and rise this mighty nation and wake the dead by the thousands.
To Allah. And I want to make this transition from those style of questions to this next one, to ask about your role in the ministry. Through your time in serving in the ministry, you were a part of a student ministry class, and now you're a student minister over a mosque. What do you say would be some of the profound lessons you have learned?
Wow. That adage that people don't care how much you know, they just want to know that you care. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, before our dear brother Hafiz transition, he stressed to him that he wanted him to be a greater pastor. He said, brother, it's already known that you can teach hard, but we want you to pastor. Our people have real problems, real issues. Much of it can be solved over the rostrum with lectures, but some of them require personal touch. I think that as student ministers, in the word minister is administration or administrator and administer. We have to have that personal touch where the believers know that we care, where we have that eye of one who wants to make the believer better, with love, correction, with love, staying true to the culture of the Nation of Islam, and watching the believers flourish. When I was at the minister's home, at the farm, DJing, I was watching the minister, watching the believers, and he watched with such a loving eye. And so I think that those of us who are attracted, obviously, to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's elocution, sometimes we want to be eloquent, or his ability to memorize, his ability to mesmerize audiences. Many times student ministers practice and hone on their presentation, their oratorical skills, but ministry is more than that. And as Minister Ishmael once told me, he said, brother, good speakers don't necessarily make good leaders.
Oh, man, and beautiful, 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 beautiful. And you there, we showed a picture of you getting the work in. I guess you were at a press conference or something, and you and I talked about some of the plans and ideas and the visions that yourself and the student laborers and the believers there are working toward. So based upon what you can share, I just want to ask you, what are some of the goals and, current and even future initiatives that you all have for the future of the city, inshallah?
Well, I want to give a shout out, if you will, to my student laborers, the co-student laborers that I work with Captain Majid Muhammad, a military genius, Sister Captain Jana Muhammad, a military stalwart, as well as a loving sister, our Secretary Stephen Muhammad, our protocol brother Dalil, and we have a local captain, Captain Richard Muhammad. These brothers and sister, we work so seamlessly and lovingly together. Without them, anything that I get credit for accomplishing, it would not happen without their work and their buy-in. So I wanted to shout out the laborers. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan issued myself and the laborers and the believers a loving challenge of eclipsing his work in the city of New York. When the minister was at his peak in 1975, they had 18 mosques, 7A through 7R. And so, as you know, we have Muhammad Mosque 7C online under the leadership of that great brother, Henry Muhammad, our student minister out there. But the minister has tasked us to build, build, and build. And so in New York at 11 o'clock, we meet in Harlem, where I teach every Sunday, and in Brooklyn, where student minister Henry teaches every Sunday. But we also opened up 2 o'clock meetings. So after Harlem, I go to Queens and I teach in Queens 3 times out of the month. And we also, right across the bridge in northern New Jersey, in Inglewood, New Jersey, we also teach. So we have 4 mosque meetings going on in New York City at on Sundays, and we're about to open up a new study group very shortly in the Bronx, New York. My thought is that in order to eclipse his work, you're not going to do it in one shot. You got to put the work in. Before the shoot goes up, the root has to go down. We have to get the first base first. So these efforts are the efforts. Hopefully, in the next 2.5, no more than 3 years, we want to have 4 mosques online. And by 6 years, 8 mosques online. That is the goal. And so we put strategies in place, God willing, to achieve that goal. New York is the heart of the nation. And so we got to pump that blood to our headquarters, Chicago. And we got to also ensure that we are in the lead on this end to be the example of supporting our headquarters.
And you talking, I'm seeing it. So, say would people be able to have that skill to be able to not so much sell it, but be able to speak the goal and the vision where those who are around can actually see it, and I can see it, man. And may Allah continue to bless you all. So when we were preparing for this, we were talking, man, you so much history, right? And you mentioned some stuff and sent me some pictures. So I was able to pull some up. And even right before this interview, you mentioned something. So I want to bring up some pictures, and I just want you to tell me, about it. And this first one I want to pull up is one that you sent me. It has our brother, the late brother Abdul Khalid Muhammad, and next to him on his right is our brother, formerly brother Conrad Muhammad, and at the rostrum is you speaking. So 2-part question: can you give us a brief background of this photo, what was going on, how it came about, and if you could just share any of your memories about Dr. Khalid and our formerly brother Conrad Muhammad.
Yeah, that picture was at a funeral of one of the leaders of the Zulu Nation, a brother by the name of B.O. And B.O. and members of the Zulu Nation would come to the mosque often. I, as a former member, used to be the emissary by which I would bring them out. We had a great relationship. At that time, I was a lieutenant, but I also was in the ministry class of Brother Conrad. At the time, Brother Khalid was no longer over number 7. However, he still lectured in New York City. And so I soldiered with and under Brother Khalid, with and under Brother Conrad, also with Brother Benjamin, also with Brother Hafiz. So I've been in ministry for many, many years. Brother Khalid was a fearless warrior. There's a difference between a soldier and a warrior. A soldier follows instructions to the letter, no matter what. A warrior is more self-willed, and both want to get the job done, but sometimes the warrior does it his way. He was fearless personified, and that attracted the street brothers. That attracted the Afrocentric brothers and sisters. But he loved the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He taught me a great deal of things on ministry. In fact, I remember the first time that I saw Brother Khalid on a cassette tape, no, a videotape, pardon me, and I saw him debate two Jewish rabbis on who was the original Jews. And I ran to the barber shop and I told my barber, cut this fade off. I want a bald head. I immediately connected to his warrior spirit. May Allah be pleased with him in all of the works that he did on behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam, and Black people in general. Brother Conrad, very elite thinker, very attractive brother. When he was linked to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he was on track to be a national leader under the minister. He was so attractive. New York was popping. And, circumstances led to our brother going to another direction, but he has to take credit or receive credit for advancing New York City, advancing Islam. There are still brothers and sisters in the mosque that came in under the invitation of Brother Khalid when he was in number 7 and Brother Conrad when he was in number 7. So I thank Allah for them both. All praise is due to Allah.
Wow, man. Thank you for that. Thank you for that history. Thank you for that history. And this is another one. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's interviews on Donahue, I first saw them when I was in high school. I was so impressed by it that I asked my cousin's friend, they were older than me, can I see the VHS tape and bring it to school? And I asked the teacher, could she play it? And she played this tape for like 3 days straight. And I went to one of those inner city schools. And
Wow.
thinking back about it, she could have been fired. But she played it and everybody sat there and watched it. And in conversation with you, you sent me this picture. And to our guests, you can see right over to the right of the head of the lady who has the microphone, you see our brother, young brother Arthur. Can you talk about your memories of that in that moment?
Yes, brother. Very thick. I think it was NBC Studios. I mean, to see Brother Leonard and at that time the Supreme Captain, Brother Sharif there, Brother Mustafa, Brother Dennis, ensuring that the minister was handled properly, being selected to be on that detail as a young fruit was an honor because, again, I never thought that I would see the minister in person, let alone meet him in person, but just to do security for him was my dream. I think any new FOI, and if his spirit doesn't get old, any old FOI imagines in their head just standing post for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, either in the inner perimeter or on the outside perimeter. And so for me, that was a dream come true. He answered the questions with ease and with skill, and the whole America was shaken up from that experience. I was very happy and honored to be there at the time.
Yeah, that's a very historic interview. And I want to next ask you about this next photo as well. You sent me this. And that's to our brothers. You may be watching, they may say, where's he at? But he is the brother that's standing to the right of, that's Tawana Brawley. That's our brother Arthur before he came into the Nation of Islam. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, brother. That was the day that I went to Savior's Day. I just got back from a 40 city tour throughout Europe, and I went to Savior's Day. And as you can see, I had my sideburns, I had my kufi. I was conscious and Afrocentric, and we were that picture was actually taken in a hotel. And Al Sharpton, you could see him before the weight reduction. Our sister Tawana Brawley in the back is an old time brother who was also a member of the Zulu Nation years ago. Brother Fareed, they used to call him Cowboy. And that looks like the late brother, I don't know if that's Brother Kenneth in the brown bow tie, Mosque number 7. May Allah be pleased with him. But I was definitely in being conscious in New York City. You could not overlook the contributions of Brother Al Sharpton and how the Tawana Brawley incident was depicted. You definitely had love and admiration. So we stopped and took a picture together. That picture always reminds me of how far that I've come thus far.
Beautiful. And this just happened. We talking about it. I'm gonna tell you, brothers and sisters who are watching, based upon my conversations with this brother and just the wealth of knowledge he has and the history and experience with hip hop. And we know we're coming up on the 50th anniversary. I'm looking at some ways we may have to do another show where we can talk more about hip hop, in particular, the influence of the Nation of Islam, excuse me, on it. Now, when we were talking, I mentioned something to you about Ice Cube, and you mentioned to me that you were able to play a role in helping to facilitate a mediation between our brother by the name of King Sun, who's a rapper, 5%er. And you see, he was online talking about a while back about an issue that he had with our brother Ice Cube. But nonetheless, regardless of whatever issue that they had, you were able to bring them together to help to resolve that conflict. Can you talk about that?
Yes, our King's son, man, his good brother. Brother was so sharp with his mathematics, his supreme wisdom. Always had love for brother Arthur, the Nation of Islam. And when Ice Cube used to perform in New York, sometimes King's son would kind of hover over him, borderline intimidate, And one day, when I was with Ice Cube. In Baltimore, he shared that with me, and I let him know that I knew King's son, and was able to get them on a three-way conversation, talked out their issues, and brother King's son honored his word, and he retreated from his stance. I was blessed to speak to him about 4 months ago. He's doing well, and we see how Ice Cube is doing with all of his entrepreneurial and enterprising exploits. That's what the Nation of Islam is about. We have to be peacemakers, peacekeepers. We have to be those that do not want to see beefs linger, but beefs get buried. And so I thank Allah that because of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we become instant, credible messengers, those who follow him, those who are sincere, those who strive to be a product of the product, not those who may be perpetrating, sidewinding, and backsliding. We don't make good, credible messages. We're actually incredible messages. But when people can see the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in us, just like with the family of Tupac, just like with others, they will come to us and ask us to assist in the efforts towards peace.
And that is definitely true. And we're coming up on the last minute of this show. So I thank you for all of what you shared, my brother, and the stories and the photos that you shared. It's been a learning experience for me. And as we close, are there any closing words that you would like to share with our viewers?
Brother, I just want to ask Allah, Master Fard Muhammad, to continue to bless you and your family. Brother, you come off, the way we drink in your features, the way we drink in your spirit, you come off as a true, sincere lover of Allah, Elijah Farrakhan, and of his people. May he bless you with good health. bless you with creativity, energy, stay on the cutting edge, continue to be attractive, brother. I'm a big Brother Willie Muhammad fan. So
Big brother Arthur fan, man.
all praises due to Allah.
Man, thank you, my brother, and continue to keep doing the work. And you know, I'm one of the many things that I love about you, but one of the things, man, I am impressed that you even have the desire, you know, like when the minister say he put the challenge that you and the laborers there and the believers to step up and say that we are going to do it. And you all are making, you already have the seed. Man, keep it up. We'll be here cheerleading for you, my brother. I'm looking at, I see they have that Jay-Z museum there. I might look to see what them plane tickets looking like and fly up there to see.
Come on
that.
up, brother. We would love to host you, brother.
Yes,
we would
sir.
love to host you.
Man, thank you, dear brother Captain Majid, brother Richard, the sister captain, all of the believers, my love and our greetings, man. And may Allah continue to bless you and the believers there. Assalamu alaikum.
Islam. Ameen.
So our brother, brother Arthur, he's there in the city of New York. If you're watching this broadcast, make sure you get the opportunity. If you're there in any one of the vicinity of the boroughs, go there, support him, check out the work that he's actually doing. And we thank each and every one of you all, brothers and sisters, for your tuning in, you know, and give a big shout out to our brother Vaughn A. Muhammad. Good news. I don't know if I should say it, brother Vaughn, but I'm gonna let brother James and them make that big announcement. But we thank you all, and may Allah continue to bless you. And this is your brother Willie Muhammad, signing off for another broadcast of I Have a Testimony. Peace.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.